This video, we will explore how to use dynamic array and native Excel functions to produce world-class analysis. Dynamic array allows us to summarize data more quickly than traditional Excel functions, mainly because dynamic arrays, have the capability to reference multiple data at once. So in this video here, we'll be using this sample data that's hotel data or property data. These properties generate this revenue and these times, and this is the cost or the direct cost that they incur whilst producing and generating this revenue here. And then the gross profit is basically just revenue minus cost of goods sold, and then the margin here is just a percentage, which is just the gross profit divided by the revenue. So this is a key concepts in finance that you probably are familiar with, or if not, that's additional knowledge right there for you. So you want to make sure that your margins are always high, because that's what goes down to your bottom line, and this is considered your top line. We'll look at this in other videos to come, but for now I want to show you certain functions that will save you time and take your analysis to the next level. The first one that we will look at will be sequence. So imagine you have these IDs, all of these property IDs all the way down here, but right now you want to put numbers over here, one all the way down to the last property ID that you have over here. How do you do that? So what you do is you can use the sequence function. The other way would be manually typing 1, 2, 3 all the way down, but that's not efficient, right? So let's use the sequence function. It is SEQ right there. So the sequence function has these parts. It has rows, columns, start, and step. Just for context, rows is how many rows do you want to have on here. So that's just like if you were to count 3 all the way down to the row 42, how many rows will that be? And then columns, how many do you want? Multiple columns? Well, in our own case, we want everything to be on one column, right? Column A. And then what do you start with? What's the base number? So it starts with 1 in our own case, because we're just doing counting, and the step is like increments of what? So we want increment of 1. So let's build it up. So the first thing is we want to have 40 rows, and we want just one column. We want it to start with 1, and we want increment of 1, and then press enter. So right now you can see you have a count all the way to 40, easy like that. And this is so easy to update. If you wanted to change it to 50, for example, you easily just change the row piece here, how many rows, and it will just add the additional rows that you just told it to add. So now we had up to 40, now we have 41 all the way to 50. So that's the sequence function. It kind of makes it easy to add those numbers there instead of typing them out, and it's so dynamic that you can update it easily. Now let's move on to something more fun now that we've warmed up over there. So assuming you have a business, and this business, you're trying to figure out how many units to sell at what prices, and to kind of visualize your revenue, which is mainly what you will do if you're starting a business and you're trying to see the various prices, especially if you understand the elasticity. You're trying to figure out what's the ideal price for me to sell a given certain volume or units, and what profit or revenue will I make. This is a metric that we would actually utilize to do something like that. So we want to calculate revenue given various price points and various units sold, but we don't want to type out the various price points manually. We want to use the sequence function to do that for us. So what we do here for price, we will type equal sequence. How many rows do we want? We want everything to be on row number 3, so it's just one row. How many columns? It's 5 columns right there. And what do we want to start with? That is our base price. We want it to start at 50, and then increments of what? That's like the next number after 50. What will it increase by? We want it to be 30. You can make this anything depending on what you're trying to sell, on what price points you're trying to charge. And now the units. Now we type again sequence, and then how many rows? Actually, we want 5 rows, and that's if you look from 4 to 8. And then how many columns? We want 1 column, And what is our base units that we're going to sell? That is 500. And increment of what? Let's say increment of 100. So 500 is the first number, then we add 100, then we add 100, and all the way down. So now we have the units and the prices. Revenue is a multiple of price times units sold or quantity, right? So how do we do that? With array function, all we need to do is say equal or plus and just select that, multiply it by this array here, and press enter. So all of that is populated, and now you have the various price points, the units sold, and the corresponding revenue for each of these combinations. So at 170 price and 900 units sold, you'll be selling, you'll be receiving up to 153K in revenue. So basically, you could be looking at the various prices and the various units that you need to sell to get a certain, revenue. So depending on your target, you can pick where you want to be at as a company or business, right? Let's say you come back later and you want to change this to start from 1,000 units. You want to sell more. All you need to do is just come to this function here, this start number, which is 500. Just change it to 1,000. Basically, that's it. It just changes it to 1,000 and maintains the sequence increments. And over here, you want to start with a higher price probably, and you want it to start from 100. So all you need to do is change the start to 100 and just press enter, and all of that will update at the same time updating all your revenue numbers. Now you've seen how to use the sequence function. Let's look at something even more fun. Now we have this properties over here, and we have various revenue generated and the gross profit margin, but we want to clear out all the noise and show only the properties that have generated gross profit of 160 and higher. So that's kind of like us saying we don't want to see anything except those properties that hit that gross profit or anything higher, right? So how do we do that? We'll use the filter function, and that filter function will allow us to kind of filter out and only show properties given that criteria. So the filter function is just type filter right there, and then you go to what data do you want to filter. It's this data here. So we just select all the data, and then once we select all of these data, we have a comma there. So what do we actually want to filter it by? That will be the second thing. Now we've selected the array. Now we want to include, if you come over here, we want to filter by the gross profit. So we select the gross profit all the way down here. Easier way, select that, Control Shift, and then down. So what's our criteria? That's where now we're going to, we set the criteria greater than or equal to 160K. Press enter. Now if you let's fix that formatting over here so everything aligns. Now if you look at these numbers here, every gross profit number that you look over here meets this criteria. The one what we said is greater than or equal to this number. So everything over there, if we change this to 150, we should have a longer list. So basically you can now just play with that number, and you can be looking at the properties that meet that criteria. And you could see if, for example, 150 is your target and some properties fall beneath this, study these properties and see what worked here and try to replicate it over there. So those are like key things that you need to start thinking if you have a business and properties are performing at different levels or bringing in different margins. So now let's take it to the next level. Now we've seen over here we have some properties that are coming in twice. Let's say this one is 1040 ID, and then you have the 1014. So basically it's hard to tell what's the average revenue that this property actually brought in, right? you have to do it manually because we have duplicates. So how do we actually make this even cleaner? We take it to the next level. We use the unique function to do that. So unique and average if is what we will use. So the unique function, how does the unique function work? Well, first we type unique. It is here. So when you select this and you post that, you press, it does the unique. So if you ever have IDs or whatever and it's there duplicates, if you want to get the unique, all you need to do is just use the unique function, select the whole array and press enter. It will generate all the unique numbers that you have, no duplicates. So that's a very cool one to know. Right now, all the unique is showing me the numbers, but right now I do not see, it's like not sorted in the right way. So I want to sort this, and there is a sort function. So we will just type sort, and then we just close that bracket. So see, now it's sorted it for me and I don't have to do anything else. Now I see the property sorted in that order. So what's the next thing that I want to do? I want to have the average revenue for, you know, these properties that we have over here. So we type average. So we need the average if function. So you use average if there's a condition. We want to average given a certain property or hotel ID, right? So average if, what is our range? So our range is what the equation or the function is going to look for when it goes to our data. And that is this. It's going to look for the ID because that's what we will use over here. So we select that array. And then the next piece is the criteria. We want it to average given this criteria here. So then the next thing now is what is the average range? We are trying to find the average of revenue for these properties. So it's this here. So we close that and we do that. So now we have the various average. Let's do a quick test. This is the property 1014. It says average 248, right? So you come over here. Let's just select these two. Let's just highlight them and let's just have them in gray so they stand out. So the average revenue is this number here. So let's look at it here. If you select that and you select that, so it's, if you look down here, it's 248,991, 248,991. Oh, you could just do average. So we can see equal average this and this. 248,991, 248,991. So now we have this very clean version. Instead of having this many, you know, data, we now have it even clean and we see the average revenue for these properties. Now let's take it another step further. We have this data over here and we have the various hotel IDs and all the revenue, cost of goods sold, profit, and the margins. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to pull this data and only show those hotels that generated a margin higher than 60%. So with this also, we can use the filter function with that condition. So we type equal filter. Do we want to filter? We want to filter all of this area here. And then how do we want to filter this? We want to filter it by the gross profit margin here. Select that whole array. And what's the condition? Greater than or equal to 60%. So basically we just selected the whole area, which is the array, the whole table. And then we said, hey, we want the gross profit margin equal to greater than or equal to 60 to show up. So all the other properties wouldn't really show up if we press enter. So right now, if you look over here, you won't see any gross profit margin that is less than, 60. And if you change this, you'll see that it will just automatically change. So you only have this many properties. And if you wanted to take it all the way down, so you have many more properties, you could just say 40. So right now we have all those properties. So this is one way that you can easily filter your data. And if you want it just to highest performing properties. So there's just one property here that generated gross margin, greater than equal or greater than 75. So maybe you can study this property and see what worked here, what are they doing, and then try to replicate it, for the rest of your properties. But this is one way that you can summarize data easily without having to, even do a lookup or anything, just quick filter. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and please subscribe to this channel and let me know, what you think about the content and the formulas, and if you've used them or if you plan on using them. If you use them, let me know how it works. Thank you.